Hello and welcome to another tutorial about Sony Vegas Pro, and we're on to episode 5 at the moment, and we're going to continue from where we left off with our demo that we've been creating. And as you can see, we've got quite a lot of stuff involved here, and there's a few more editing tricks that I'm going to show you, and then we're going to look at rendering the final product so that you can obviously then upload it to YouTube at some point. And it's a bit of a minefield because rendering, which we're going to talk about first of all, rendering is a minefield of knowledge, because it's not just a case of click the button and away we go. Sony Vegas makes a video. There are settings involved, and if you go on to YouTube, you'll see that if you type in rendering settings Vegas, oops, I don't want to hush, there we are, right, so you can see that there are literally loads and loads and loads. There's 7+ pages. I don't know how many more there are after that, but let's go through. So there we go, how to edit, 10 pages. And just on this first page, for example, this one, basically going through how to set the settings.
Make sure your resolution is 1920.
That's very annoying. I'm just going to turn off the sound because it's actually distracting me. However, he's going through the process of setting up the rendering settings in Vegas. It doesn't matter what Vegas version you have. You'll basically do the same thing. And in this case, he's doing 30 frames a second on HD 1080p. Going on to the actual rendering settings, which are here. He's telling you that you should, well, we're going to go through this anyway, but how you select the item that you want for MP4 and the ideal situation for uploading to YouTube. So you can see that there are lots of videos and they all tell you the same, roughly the same information. We don't want to reinvent the wheel because obviously there are people that have done this sort of thing before. And the best thing is to go out and look at the videos that are already out there rather than me telling you the same thing over and over again. Right, so rendering. So first of all, let's go into our project settings, which is the one up here. Project settings. Now, the video that we had, which is what we've made, had a default, which I actually didn't set myself, but it's actually come up as default. And what we can do is we can actually go in and select the one I've created, which is a 29 frame or 30 frames a second HD, which is 1920 by 1080. And don't worry too much about NTSC within the video world on YouTube. PAL and NTSC are really not important, they're irrelevant. So we're talking about 30 frames a second, the non-progressive scan, because 1080p is progressive. That's why you need to have it as non. Pixel aspect ratio is 1. The frame rate obviously is 30. You can of course adjust it for double, which would be 60 frames a second, but actually YouTube doesn't really look at anything over 30 anyway. All of these settings, apart from this one, which you want to have your rendering quality as best, and then when you get down to the bottom, you want to start all new projects with these settings so that you won't have this problem again. And this is why I didn't do it before, because well, I didn't do it before. That's basically the answer I'm looking for. You can, of course, go into audio and change all of these. The recommended position is is basically not there. So you can go as high as you like, but sound quality is sound quality, so anything will do. You can leave it on 48,000, that's fine. And all of those settings are as default. So if we apply this to our project, but also don't forget you want to save this template, and it will update your template for the future. So we apply that again and then OK it. So our project now should be according to those settings. Now, I did mention that the resampling. Now, you will find that resampling, you need to turn it off. And the best time to do it is when you put the video file into your project. But we've obviously got these already in our project, so we need to go back in. So right click and properties, and then do this disable resample. And also, if you want to, you can turn off the aspect ratio, which will make it full screen. This particular video is actually made at 25 frames a second. Now this one here, for example, is 60 frames a second. But again, we need to disable the resample, maintain aspect ratio, so it would fill the whole screen. And there's one more video which we inserted. It's 30 frames a second, so that one's compatible. And disable and maintain. So there. So now we've set all of our resampling to disabled. We can now look at rendering the file. So if we go to File and Render As, you will get a box where you can put the name of the video that you want to create. And I saved this to F drive, which is a SSD, so it should be fairly quick. If we look at the whole list, so we take off the filter there, which is our favourites, you can see that there are quite literally quite a lot of codecs there. Now, the default one is this one, which you can then customize, and hopefully what you'll be able to do is produce your own, which is this one here. So the Sony, I've made it 1280, and if we customize it, you can see that we have all of the settings there. Non-progressive scan because it's 1080p. Now, this is the contentious issue, the bitrate. Some videos will tell you you want a very high number. You know, I've seen 50 million, and I've seen as low as 2 million, but I've set this to an average of 5 million. The bitrate is going to be affecting the file size, but more importantly, it affects the quality of your video. So the higher the number, the better the quality. But it has a downside in the fact that it will take longer to render. Frame rate here is wrong, so we need to change that to the 29.9. I've actually saved this template and then OK. Okay, so there's our file, our render template, which we're going to use. Now we need to think about, if we had a render loop, which is the yellow arrows there. Now if we don't have that, then it will just do the whole video. So if we do the whole video, we can see that we'll see what happens. And then we just click render, and what it will do is it'll go away and it will render the video, and hopefully what we'll get is a very nice output. There we go, 13 minutes for just over 1 minute video. So I think we'll have to come back when it's nearer the time.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
So let's go and have a look at the rendered file, which is this one here. Now we can see it's quite small. It's 34 megabytes. It's 1 minute 05. Its frame rate is the frame size is HD. There's no other information, but we can obviously go into the file properties and look at the details of the file. So we have a data rate of 4123 kilobits per second, which is a total bit rate of 4447 kilobits. The audio is 323 kilobits, 2 channels stereo, audio sample 44 hertz. Basically, that is the file that we would then have to upload to YouTube. And if we can play the file. You won't be able to hear the sound because there is sound actually. And you see that the quality of it's pretty good. I mean, that one there is nothing to do with rendering. That's actually the original quality of the graphic that I used. It's not very high, but the video, as you can see, is pretty damn smart. And that was partly due to the disable the resample side of it. It does help the frames. And that is basically rendering the video. It can take, I mean, that actually took 15 minutes to render a 1 minute video in HD with a reasonable bit rate of 5 million. Now obviously if I made that better, if I made that say 10 million, it would have taken longer obviously, but then is there any difference in quality? I don't know. I mean, it would require some side by side comparisons. Right, so there we go. That is essentially all we're going to do today, is just covered in rendering and some brief editing of the clips. So remembering that we need to disable the resample and untick the maintain aspect ratio so that it fills the whole screen. And you should really do that when you put in the clip. So if we put in the clip, the first thing that we do is right click on the video and properties, and then disable the resample and maintain, and then OK it. Now if we then chop it up, every part of the video will have the same settings when we go into it. So if we just have a little look at the middle one, you can see it's the same. So do remember to do that before you start editing, because otherwise you'll have to go through every individual part of every clip, and that, trust me, is a pain in the backside. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode and you're finding it very, very useful. Please come back very soon for another episode.